Shalom Rabbi, I have a question. If Gey-hinom is for eternity, forever, why are there some people who do different things to try to help their soul, to get them out of there? They do things to elevate their soul, to tzaka, kaddish. It's possible to save a soul from Gey-hinom. It's only for Jews or even for Noahites. That's a very good question. So, not everybody gets judged to go to Gey-hinom forever. There are certain sins that a Jew makes that can put him in the category of going to Gey-hinom forever, but not every sin. Every sin has a certain statement, a certain amount of time, and depending on how big the sin is, whether it was on purpose or not, and how many times he made the sin. This is also one of the places that many of the rabbis that misspeak intentionally or unintentionally about Gey-hinom and tell people that it's only 1 year. This is one of the places where their logic simply goes into the garbage, because they don't realize that, yes, even if you want to say people go to Gey-hinom for 1 year, it's obviously cannot be true. Why? Because first and foremost, not everybody sins, the same sins. So you can't say that someone that raped 20 people and then someone that stole $50, they both go to Gey-hinom for a year. Now you're going to say, yeah, no, that guy goes for a year. He raped 50 people, and the guy that's 50 stole money, he goes there for 2 days. Okay, great. So what about if the guy that raped 50 people, okay, he goes for a year. What about if the guy that stole $50, he also killed 10 people? What happened to him? Oh, no. Now he goes for a year. Oh, so wait, so now this guy raped 50 people, and he didn't kill them. He gets the same sentence as somebody that killed 50 people? It's the same thing. And then all of a sudden you start seeing them get confused because they realize that their argument doesn't make any sense. Plus, especially since no one has one sin. Everybody has many sins. So you cannot get all of your, 1 year in Gey-hinom for all of your sins. It doesn't make any sense. Point being is, some people go to Gey-hinom for a certain amount of time. That could be a month, could be a year, could be 50 years, could be 1,000,000 years. But the point being is, it is not forever. It's not forever. And then some people go there forever. What does it mean, forever? Forever is for an extraordinarily, amount of time, to the point where their soul is eventually destroyed, which is after a very, very long time. Okay? In our numbers, it could be millions of years, but in essence, it is not something that's comprehensible to us. Nonetheless, it is eventually they get destroyed, but not until that the suffering takes place, because in order to destroy a Neshama is not just putting it through a shredder. There's a process, if you will. But the point being is, not everybody goes to Gey-hinom forever. And even if somebody made certain sins that would typically put them in a caliber of going to Gey-hinom forever, it's always weighed against their merits and what they've left in this world, if they have certain things. Now, there is a Rishon, one of the sages from 900 years ago, that actually says outright that if somebody died a Mechalel Shabbat b'mezid, meaning he violates Shabbat, knows what Shabbat is, but he violates Shabbat anyway, doesn't care. Or let's say someone that wastes seed and knows that you're not allowed to and doesn't anyway. One of the karet sins that puts a person in a category of eternal Gey-hinom. Somebody like that died, there's nothing you can do for them. You can read Kaddish until you're blue in the face, it won't help them. There is a Rishon from 900 years ago that outright say that all the Kaddish in the world is not going to help those people. But there are some Chachamim that are just as great that disagree. Why are they disagreeing? They're disagreeing because they say, look, but we have some examples in the Gemara where Elisha Acher was someone that made very big sins, but he was the rabbi of, before he became a Rasha, he was the rabbi of Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. So he died and he went to Gey-hinom, but eventually the Gemara says that he was taken out because of the prayers and merits and teachings and so on of Rabbi Meir's student, and then eventually also because of the prayers and merits of the teachings of Rabbi Yochanan. So a couple of generations of tzaddikim prayed to him and eventually took him out of Gey-hinom. So you see that there is a way to get them out of Gey-hinom. So that's the argument. The contrary argument, again, the rebuttal to that is like, yeah, Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yochanan, maybe they can take somebody out of Gey-hinom. But are you Rabbi Meir? Are you Rabbi Yochanan? So that's the thing. A person needs to know. Once a person dies and they put themselves in a situation where they lived an entire life of sins, at the very least, they are not in a easy situation that will easily be solved. At all. It's not. Is it possible? We'd like to think it's possible, but there's no guarantee. And just saying Kaddish for someone, for sure, is not going to be enough. For sure, it's not going to be enough. There has to be more. It has to be Torah, has to be Chesed. In essence, someone has to make this like part of their lifelong projects and hope that they may be able to get this person out of Gey-hinom. Maybe. But that means that every time they do a mitzvah, every time they learn, every time they give tzedakah, and a lot of it for the sake of Torah, every time they do something, they have to also have this person in mind, and they have to do a lot more than typical. And especially if that person had money, and they left that person an inheritance, really what your person should do, they should literally take every dollar that person left them and give it for the sake of publicizing Torah. Why? Because if you're taking your money, and you're, let's say, donating $5,000, $500,000, whatever it is, for the sake of, let's say, a father or a mother that wasn't exactly righteous, it's good, but it's not the same as if you used their money that they left you. Why? Because when you use their money, it's as if they did it for themselves, which has a totally different weight and significance. So if somebody left people money, they should literally take every penny they have and donate it for their sake, if you really care about this person. If you don't care about this person, you care about the house that they gave you and the money that they gave you and all that other stuff, then the conversation is it's a moot point. But if somebody really cares about somebody and knows that person is in Gey-hinom, they should literally take every penny that they gave you and invest it in publicizing Torah. Why? Because that will at least give them a fighting chance to get out of the very, very deep and likely a permanent hole that they built for themselves. Likely a permanent, so that's the thing. So it's highly, highly recommended. It's definitely not easy, but we'd like to think it's not impossible, because there are some chachamim that say it's not impossible. Either way, doing the prayers and the learning and the mitzvot and the kaddish for those people is still beneficial. Meaning, even if it doesn't take them out of the permanent Gey-hinom that it is, it still helps them because it lowers the suffering. Now, it may not mean much to certain people, but in the Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, talks about how there is a significance in trying to have, even if someone's sinning, to sin less. There's a significance in it because the punishment is less. Meaning that to us, we figure, if the guy's in Gey-hinom forever, what difference does it make? No, there is a difference. Why? Because when there is a punishment, when there's a suffering, there's no getting used to it. There's no getting used to the suffering. There's no getting used to pain. Anyone that has ever experienced a chronic pain knows that you never get used to the pain. It's always like it's brand new. It's just a reality. Now, for people that haven't experienced pain, it's impossible for them to comprehend what I'm saying, but I'll try to give you an understanding before we finalize this point. It's a very important point. So now, even if a person has put themselves in a situation where they are in a really, really terrible situation, in the Olam HaEmet, now you giving tzedakah for them, saying kaddish for them, learning Torah for their sake, doing something good for their sake, that means that they will be elevated in some way. They will suffer less in some way while you're doing it. So, let's say, for example, if there was, Shem Yishmo, if there was, let's say, 10 fires that was supposed to burn them to a crisp that day, they feel every single one as if it's independent. So there's several times where the Shik Chokhmah and Gal Mivilna and some other Chachamim give serious details about certain people that Rabbi Yehuda of certain people, what happens to them in Gey-hinom and how they're burned to pieces, and then they were, resurrected, and then again, Shem Yishmo. Rabbi Avraham Azulai says that literally for every sin that they made with the wasting seed, every single time they do it, they get burned for it again and again and again. It's a nightmare. Point being is, now, let's say, I can't believe I'm taking that. 10 times, let's say a person is going to get burned for that day, and you just donated some money, or you just did Kaddish, or you just did something good for the sake of this person, and that lowers their burning from 10 to, let's say, 9 or 8. Now, that may not seem significant to you, like, oh, they're suffering anyway. To them, trust me when I tell you, it's significant. It's significant. It's very significant. Very, very significant. So, it behooves a person that loves another person to do everything possible to help them. And there are some success stories, to leave this on a good note, there are some success stories that I've heard from Rav Nisim again, and from Rabbi Yehuda and some other Chachamim that had awareness of the other side, and have written about it, talked about it, and where they did do a Tikkun for certain Neshamot and got them out of the permanent hole that they were in. There is some success. Now again, these are extraordinary cases, and I would not let anyone assume that it's an easy thing where if you just say Kaddish for them for a year, they're going to Gan Eden. Don't let anybody fool you. It's not, a person cannot live 50, 60, 70, 80 years and going against Hashem and simply be saved from all of it after a year of you saying Kaddish a few times a day. Like, you have to, use your brain. You can't just assume that a person can just go to war against Hashem and then be, saved from it just because somebody said a few words for a few months. It's obviously measure for measure in the world. But can it be done? There are some success stories. And I would recommend that people do everything possible to help those that have passed, because that's true chesed. But, last point, don't make that your only goal in life, because there are even more people that are still alive that you can help. Okay, so you have to help those too. The ones that have died, yeah, that's a big mission, but make sure that you're also living, in a way where you're helping the people that are alive.